Hey, this is Mike from Minimal 3DP, and I recently posted this video as part of my Voron build series, but I decided to edit it down and take out most of the Voron references because I thought it would be helpful for the community to have a reference for setting up Klipper on a CB1 board, as well as the Bigtreetech EBB SB2209 CAN board, the RP2040. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. What I have open on the screen here is the documentation for the Mana board, and I'm using a CB1. So if I'm using a CB1, I need to go to this link, and this will let me download the operating system for the board. Now, this actually updated in March, so this was sort of a while ago. Now, I'm going to install the complete image, not just the bare minimum. So I want everything installed rather than just do the minimalist. So let me download this and then we'll work on flashing. I want to point out real quickly, this file downloads a .xz file, which is a zip file. You don't have to extract it. So in my case, I'm using Balena Etcher to create the install. So I'm just going to take my SD card and insert it into the computer. With the SD installed, I'm going to first select the file to flash from. And in this case, I'm going to use that img.xz file. Hit open. I'm going to select the target, which will be my SD card, and I believe it's this top one here. That's 32 gigs, so that seems right. I'm going to select that. I'm going to hit flash. In my case, it does ask for a password, so I'm going to type that in, and we'll let that write. So that'll take a couple minutes, and we'll come back. So as you can see, it's finished flashing, and let's go back over to the directions. So there's a couple things we need to do. We need to go to the system config, and we need to turn on the Wi-Fi. So we need to configure this for my Wi-Fi. I'll show you the file. I'm not going to enter my Wi-Fi password in the video. So let me open up the SD card so we can see that, and we remove it and reinsert it. So now it's boot. Here's the system config. I'm going to open that. I use Visual Studio Code, and right in here, I'm going to put in my Wi-Fi password. So let me pause and I'll get that done. So I got the Wi-Fi, my router name and my Wi-Fi password in. Now I'm just going to go ahead and eject the SD card. And with it ejected, I can then insert it into board and we'll fire up the CB1. When I go up and plug her in and turn it on, I'm getting power. Now, I'm not getting fans on, but I think that has more to do with Klipper's not configured or any of that. I do have it powered. It should be connected to my Wi-Fi. And so let's take a look and see if we can SSH it. Okay, so I've switched over to my display, to my computer, and I want to SSH into the machine. Now, the best way to do this is, one, if you have any machines running the CB1, I'd go ahead and just shut those down momentarily. And then you want to check your router and look for the CB1 and get the IP address. And in my case, I'm looking at the different address on my router. You want to check your interface on your router. In my case, I'm using Google Home, so I just go to the Google Home app and look for the BQCB1. Once I see that device, I grab the IP address, and then I can log in with the IP address. Now we're going to sort of ignore what I'm typing now because I want to show you a step I forgot to do while we were working on the text file. And so let's just take a quick look at that. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you see what the text file looked like, and I'm opening up one of the guides I'm looking at. And you'll notice this line up here, this BTT-CB1. That's what'll show up on your router page. And right now, that's the name of the device. I forgot to change mine. So I went ahead and changed it, but let me show you how to change it. And you can do this via the SSH. So if you can successfully SSH into it, all you need to do is SSH into the IP address. So I'm just typing in the username, which is the default. And let's see if this will let me in. and it will, and I'm typing in the default password, and this puts me on the device. Now, in order to change the host name, which I believe you should change the host name. Otherwise, if you have other CB1s on your network, it's going to get all sorts of squirrely because you have things all named the same. So what I did was just go CD and then CD again. And when you do an LS, you should see this boot directory here. And you just want to CD into that boot directory. Now let's type LS again. And there's our friend, the system config. So if I just go sudo nano system.config, I can then uncomment out the host name and change it to whatever I want. So I've changed mine, as I mentioned, to Voron, so that way it's unique on my network. And once I do that, I just exit out of Nano and make sure I save. And then you type in sudo reboot. And when you do that, it'll automatically reboot the CB1 on your board. So that's rebooting. I'll give that a minute or two. And then I can just SSH, and I'm going to type in the default username and password again. And I'm going to type in Voron, well, I got to spell it right, Voron.local. And again, type in that password, and I'm back on the device. So again, pretty simple. So now we're just going to run a couple things I normally do to configure this, and then we'll get moving. What I'm going to start out with is Esoterical's CAN bus setup guide. Now for me, what I'm going to do is let's start with a clear screen. So I'm still SSH'd into my device. So I'm just going to type in clear. First thing I like to do is just update the CB1. So I'm going to do sudo apt get update, and that's seeing what packages have been updated and all that good stuff. Because again, I've had this kit for quite a while, so I'm sure things have changed. We also know that Bigtreetech has not updated this image since March. And I prefer to start everything off with everything being up to date. That way I just know where I'm at with stuff. Now, over here, while this is updating, we'll go to Esoterical site. We're going to start off at home, scroll down all the way at the bottom of the home page, and there's a new build. So I'm just going to start here. And we'll just wait a minute or two for the image to keep updating. Okay, so this has finished updating. Now I'm just hitting the up arrow, and I'm going to change my command from update upgrade, and this will probably take a couple minutes to run everything. And it's asking me, yes, you can see there's a whole long list here of things that are going to be updated. I'd rather, like I said, start with everything up to date. I'm going to hit yes, and let's just let that run. Okay, so as you can see, this finished updating. Now what I'm going to do is just do that sudo reboot again, because I always prefer to reboot after I update, and then I'll give this a minute or two and then log back in. And really it should only be a minute or two. It shouldn't take very long for it to come back up at all. Let me hit it. I probably did it too soon, and we'll give this a minute. So let's type it BQ, and we're back up and running. I have a lot on my screen, so I'm just going to type in the clear command. So that gets set a clean prompt. And then I'm just starting right here with the Esoterical guide. The first thing I'm going to do is let's go try simple copy paste here. Yep. So I'm copying this command, pasting it over. Now this file may or may not exist. If it doesn't exist, Nano will actually create it. And as you can see, it doesn't exist because there's nothing here. So now we want to copy this code. We'll go over here and paste her in. Hit enter just to go to a new line. And then I'm hitting on my keyboard Control X. It might be Command X on your keyboard, depending if you're using Windows or Mac. In fact, here, right here, it says Control X. So we're going to hit Control X. Do we want to save it? The answer is yes. Do we want to write this as the file name? We just want to hit enter. And there we go. Now, if I go and do the command again, there's the file, and you can see everything's in there. So we saved it. So let's keep scrolling down on the directions. And I said these are pretty detailed, but I'm just going to sort of keep going down and using and just typing in the commands. So now I'm working on the net plan, which that lets us different connections. So I'm going to type in that command, or better yet, copy and paste it. Again, this is blank, and I just want to copy the code from here. In fact, there's a little copy button over here too we can use. And then I'm just pasting it in, and I'm hitting my Control X, clicking Y for yes. I'm saving that as the name. So let's keep going down here and get all this set up. So I'm just again, copying commands and pasting them in. We have this set of commands. Let's get those in. And that all looks good. Hit Control X, Y, save it as that file name. Now, the next thing we have is the R120 termination resistors. So with this, we want to power the printer off. So I'm powering the printer off, and we have a change to make. Now, in the case of the board, back when we did the board, we put on the R120 resistor. Now I'm going to move my camera up closer to the board. So the jumper for the 120 on the board is right here. And you can see I have it set. So that's good. Now we need to go down to the board on the tool head and change it there. So let me reposition the camera. So on my EBB board, the 120R jumper is right here next to the hot end plug. And on mine, it looks like it's already set. So let's just take a quick look. Now it's fairly hard to see here. Let me see if I can get a little pointer. What's this? So it's this jumper right in here. And I'm going to tell you that so there's a tiny little jumper in there, and hopefully I set that when we were setting this up. That jumper is tiny, so you want to be really, really careful if you do take it off, and make sure you do keep all your jumpers. But I have it set, so that's looking good. Now, what we're going to do is continue with the flashing process. So I have the 120R resistor set on both ends of my tool chain. So let's again go back to our commands, and we'll keep working. So I'm back, still logged into the board. Have my directions up. Looks like I've done everything here that I need to do. And I don't think from the look of it here, we have everything we need set up. So we're good to go on everything here. So let's keep going. So I'm back in front of my machine now. I did power off. I'm just going to type in exit here, and I've disconnected, and then I just want to reconnect. So I've reconnected to my board. And let me look and see what our next steps are. We look over at our directions here. We have two different types of connections, a dedicated CAN adapter or a USB CAN bridge clipper on your main board. That's what we're using. So we're using the second one. So I'm going to click on that and then just follow the link to start flashing everything on the main board. Now, we've already, it looks like, ran these commands that we needed. And what I'm going to do is let's copy this command and let's run it anyway. And this is also going to install Python 3 and the Python 3 serial, which that's fine. Leave that as part of the process. And it's asking us yes or no. We're going to hit yes because we want to install it. And what I'm going to do is let's copy this command and paste it in. So we're doing a lot of this through Catapult. And so we've just created the Catapult folder. If we run that ls again, you'll see here's Catapult. Previously it wasn't there. So we want to CD into that folder. So CD, and then we want to do make menu config. I've confirmed I have the man L 1.1. So we're just going to go here and pointing out the the 120R resistor. We have that. For these next steps, I want to have my configuration look like configuration down here at the bottom. So we're going to start over here, and I want to change the board to STM32GO. It's be GOB1. And you can actually look at your chip and see that on your board. So I have that, and I want to build, let's go back here. I want to build a Catapult application 32 KIB bootloader. Actually, check that. We want the 8 kilobyte. So let's go over here. I'm using a combination of the top screen and the bottom screen on the left. So we 8 megahertz crystals. That's right. Communication interface is going to be USB on PA11 and 12, application offset 8 kilobytes, USB IDs, leave that alone. We want to enable LED support, and we want to change that to PA13. I guess I need to PA13. So we have that set up. Now we want to hit Q and we want to save it. And what we should need to do is go over back to this set of instructions. So we followed that, we hit the Q to save it. And now we would just want to type in make, and this should make the file. We should see a catapult.bin here at the end, and I can see the files created right up here. So that looks correct. So now we want to keep scrolling down here. It looks like we need to put the board in DFU mode. So if I go back over here, put it in DFU mode, we need to hold down the boot button, and while we're holding it, press and release the reset button count to 5, then release the boot button. So let's switch back over to the printer and we'll do that. Right here, I have the boot button and the reset right here. So I'm going to hold down the boot button. I click the reset. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Set that up. And then let's see if we actually have it in DFU mode. So I'm going to type in LS USB and I should see, and there's the line right there, STM in DFU mode. So that's looking good. So we have this set up right. So now we need to actually flash, and I'm in the catapult. I've already done the make. So let's just do an LS. Let's go to the out folder. So let's just do CD out. So we want to see if there's a catapult.bin in there, and right here at the bottom. So now let's do CD, and we should be all right in this folder. So we're in the catapult folder. We've done make. Now let's run this command. Okay, so this finished flashing. That was really, really quick. Now, one thing that freaked me out as I saw this, our download get status, but I'm seeing that over here in the directions as well. So right now, everything's looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and click here in the instructions to keep going. So we want to double click the reset button on the board. So let's go ahead and do that. Catapult's now successfully flashed. Take out the few jumpers on your board. If it needed done, double click on the reset. So let's double click on the reset. So switch over to the tripod. So I've double clicked on reset and the LED's flashing. I think that's correct. Okay, so we're back to the instructions. And now I want to go back over to the Klipper directory. So I'm going to start in the Klipper folder. I've CD'd into the Klipper folder, ran my clear command. And now let's go ahead and make Klipper. So I'm going to type in make menu config. And this brings up this screen. So I want to make sure I'm now following the instructions here at the bottom. And I want to make these look the same. So I've enabled low level. I have STM32 selected, STM32GOB1 selected, 8 kilobyte bootloader, 8 megahertz crystal. And now for the communication interface, USB to CAN bus bridge. So I need to select that. And then on the CAN bus interface, I need to make sure that's set to PD12 and PD13. So let's just look at this and make sure all of that is set correctly and it looks correct. So let's type Q, Y to save, and we're going to type in make clean. So that way that clears out our folder. Now we'll type in a make command. And this will make Klipper. And this will take a couple minutes and I'll come right back. Now, as you can see, Klipper, the Klipper.bin is right here. So it was created, so that's good. Now I'm going to type clear again. So I've run my clear command. And now I'm just going to copy this command to stop Klipper if it's running. And I think this more has to do if we were running update as opposed to where we're at right now. Then we're going to type in the ls command again, and they should show our catapult running. So there it is right there. Now, the next bit is we're going to copy this command, and this is the install command. We have to do 2 steps here. So we're pasting this in, and then we're going up and deleting the USB-catapult ID that's there. And we're going to replace that with what ours really is. So we have that. And we're going to hit enter. This should take a minute, and it's installing. It looks like the flash was successful. So that's great. Now what we're going to do is type in LS USB. And we're looking for this line right here, which is I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, the CAN adapter. And looking at the directions, we're good to go. It's there. So that's awesome. And then we need to check the CAN interface. So let's say copy, and let's paste the CAN interface over here. And we're looking for, now let me make this bigger. It says here we're looking for QLEN 1024. I see QLEN 1024 right here. So I'm thinking we're good to go. So let's keep going down on the directions, and see what we have to do next. So let's run that clear command again. So I'm going to run clear. And now I want to get the ID of the board. So we're just going to copy this command and paste it up here. And there's the CAN bus ID right here. So that looks great. And that's what's going to need to go in the MCU section of our printer.config file on the main board. So let's go ahead and start our Klipper service. Oops, I don't want to hit print, I want to hit copy. So let's just copy that, go over here and start the service. And now our board is fully flashed. We have working CAN 0 CAN bus network. Next step is we're going to flash our Toolhead board. So let's follow those steps. So I'm back over to our next steps. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to back out of this directory. So now I'm back here and let's just type in LS. Now our steps, in fact, in first, I thought, oh, I clicked on the wrong link. But the steps to install Catapult and Klipper on the board, on the Toolhead, are the same as on the motherboard. So the steps pretty much all look the same. So don't be confused by this. Now we don't have to install Catapult again. We already have it installed. Well, you're seeing it right up here. So we can see it. But we do need to set up for our Toolhead. So the first thing I'm going to do is type in, let's get into the Catapult directory and let's spell it right. And let's do a make menu config. Now I'm running, we click on this, it'll bring us to the common, we click on this, and I'm going to open this in a new tab. This will bring us to the common Toolhead options. Now I'm using the Bigtreetech SB2209 RP240, and I can confirm that by sort of looking at the diagrams. That's where my R120R resistor is. We showed you that earlier, and we have that set up. Now, there are several steps here we'll have to do. I'm going to create the firmware first, okay? And then we're going to go back and look at those other steps. But I want to create the firmware first. And so I'm just matching this top Catapult configuration with what I have over in my terminal. So let's go to the RP2040, and now the chip should be the W25Q080. That looks correct. Build Catapult. Now we're doing 16-bit bootloader. USB configuration should be CAN bus. Now it looks like we want 4 and 5 look correct. Billion looks correct. GPO. Enable bootloader entry. Double click reset. That's correct. And then down here on the status LED, we need to go into that and we need to type GPIO26. GPIO26. Hit enter. And now let's look at everything and just make sure it's all correct. So let's look at this. I think it looks okay. I'm going to type Q and then yes. And then let's go back to the regular directions. And so we have all that. Now I'm going to type a make clean, so that way if I have extra junk laying out there. Now I'm just going to type in make. This should make our catapult.bin. And in fact, there's the catapult.bin. So that's good. So what I've done is I'm zoomed in right now on the Toolhead. Now we're going to keep in mind this is upside down because I still have the printer upside down. Now the first thing it's saying we need to do is let's power off. So I'm going to power off, and then I'm going to unplug the USB cable. So we want the CAN bus cable undone. So we have that undone. And then right here we have a 5-volt jumper. And we need to go ahead and install that 5-volt jumper. So let me find the jumpers and we'll get that situated. If you looked carefully, I've installed the 5-volt jumper. And I got to admit, these are the world's tiniest jumpers. You have to be really careful because I had trouble finding one. Luckily, I found one just buried under something on my desk. But these real tiny ones are hard to keep your hands on. I have that plugged in. So now I need to find the USB connection on here and connect the USB cord. So let me find the connection, then we'll get that plugged up. So everything I'm reading is recommending a USB-A to USB-C connection. I'm making sure the printer's turned off, and I'm plugging in the USB-A to the board, to the Mainboard, and then I'm plugging in the USB-C down here on the tool head. Let's power that on and see what happens. And I'm getting a little light there, so I am getting power now from the board to the tool head. So that is excellent. That's exactly what I want to see. And actually I have two lights. I have one right here, and then there's another light over here on the tap. So that's all looking good. So we're getting power from the board to the tool head. Now I will point out the recommendation, I just tried, and I'm going to edit this out of the video. I tried a USB-C to USB-C. That didn't work. This cable that I have on here is a data transfer cable. So it's going to do power and data transfer. I want that. So let's go back over to our instructions and get her going. Now I have created my catapult file, but I'm probably disconnected now because I've powered off the Pi. So let's log back in and let's go back over to the catapult folder, and then let's look at our directions. Now our toolhead board is using the RP2040. So we're going to click on that. I went the right way. So now we have to do the boot mode. If I look at my hardware, what we're going to do is we're going to hold down the boot button, click reset, and then hold boot for a couple more seconds, then let go. So let's take a look here. And this is going to be a little cramped here, but we'll make do. Keep in mind, this is upside down. So I'm just going to hold down boot, click reset, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, hopefully that's in DF mode. Let's type in our commands to check to see if it is. And we should be able to type in ls USB, and there's that Raspberry Pi R2 boot. So that's great. That's great. And then we also, here's our ID of it here. So we have two things we need. Now we're in the catapult folder. So let's copy our command here, which is going to be make flash, paste that in. Now I want to just confirm that this ID is equal to the ID right here. And it looks like it's the same. So let's click enter, and that looks correct. So I think we got that. Now let's click here for the next steps. Well, it took me down. So now catapult's successfully flashed. We need to shut down the Pi and power off the entire printer. So we want to undo all the USB. We need to take off the jumpers for the 5-volt on the tool head, and then we're going to need to re-plug up umbilical cord and plug it all in. So let's go ahead and do that. So first thing I'm going to do is let's power off. So I'm powered off. I'm going to unplug the USB cable. I'm going to take my forceps here and yank the 5-volt jumper here. Now I'm keeping that, and I'm putting that with the rest of my jumpers. So that's good. Now let me unplug the USB from up top here. So I'm unplugging the USB, and I should now plug in the umbilical cord. So I'm plugging this cord back in. So that cord's in. Now everything is shut off, and let's power back on. So this is getting power now, so that's correct. I'm getting power up top, and let's go over to our steps. So I need my display. Now I've disconnected, so we'll wind up. This will take a second. So let's type clear, and let's SSH into our board again, and let's type in this command. And it looks like we have two UUIDs, and I'm going to copy these because I think I'm going to need both of these. But this is looking all correct. I'm going to copy these, and let me paste those into a text document just so I have them. So I've taken note of everything, and I'm going to keep scrolling down here. And now we need to actually install Klipper. And I believe this is installing Klipper onto our tool head. So let's CD into the Klipper folder and let's do make menu config. Yeah. Now we need our toolhead configuration. So here's our Klipper config. Now we're going back to, we need to enable low level. Let's change we need to change the microcontroller to the RP2040. Bootloader, we want 16 kilobytes. The communication interface needs to be CAN bus. We need to leave this at 4 and 5. Those both look good. 1 million, and then the microcontroller GPIO 26. GPIO 26. So let's read through this again. So we have low-level configuration enabled. We have it on RP2040. We have the bootloader at 16. We have the communication interface at CAN bus. 4 and 5 look correct. We have it set at 1 million. And then we have the GPIO pin set to GPIO 26. So we're going to save that. Yes. Let's go back to our directions. Now we're going to type in make clean and let's just run a make. And this is generating the firmware. Take a look. We can see the clipper.bin right here at the bottom. So that generated. I'm going to type in a clear to give myself some room. And then I'm back over to the instructions. I'm going to copy this command, and this is stopping Klipper. And then we're going to run the query to make sure we can see the catapult device. And we can, so we can see the catapult device right here and its UUID. So we're going to use this command. Now we have to, right in the middle here, there's your UUID. So we're going to use the UUID for catapult here. So let's paste this command in. I'm going to use the back arrow and go right over here. And I'm going to copy this UUID and then paste it in. Now let's just look at this. This all looks correct to me. And let's go ahead and run it. It does look like it's installing something. And it says flash successful. So we flashed. Let's rerun the query tool. And it looks like now we have both those UUIDs and we have this correct. Now the F2 one should be the second one should be the toolhead. First one should be the board itself. What I'm going to do is just copy these again and put them back over in my text document. And let me make a note here of which one's which. The other one's toolhead. We have that. And I accidentally paste this command. So this is looking good. Now, so let's run the CAN bus query to get the CAN bus UUID. I believe that's this one here, but I'm going to grab both of them. And again, paste that into my text document, just so I have lots of references here for some of this output. Now, one thing I do want to run is, let me pause this for a second. I want to find a different command. So I basically ran the same command again, except over for the toolhead. So that way I could just make sure. So I believe the top one's the board, bottom one is the toolhead here with these CAN bus IDs. Now, let me go back over and finish my steps here. So we need to restart Klipper. So I'm just going to type in this command here, and that should start. And then let's go over to the final steps. My next step here is, let's see if we can actually configure this printer. So I'm going to type in boron.local. Let's see if I can connect. Well, that's looking pretty good. So we are connected now, and this makes me feel good. So let's take a look and figure out what all we need to do. So we are connected. There are lots of updates to do here. So I'm going to go ahead and run these updates. So I'm just going to hit update all, and then I understand and start update. So let's update everything, and then we'll start configuring the printer.config. So as you can see, I've successfully updated mainsail and all the components here. And now what we need to do is set up the printer.config. Now, I'm going to go ahead and break that into a separate video because this is already pretty long. So I appreciate you sticking with me. If you have any questions or comments, please post below. I know I was pretty slow at this, and there's probably better ways of doing it, but this is the best way I found. And I really want to thank people behind the esoterical CAN bus setup guide. It's absolutely incredible. It took me a little bit to figure out what I needed to do, but once I did, you got me through it. So I really appreciate their work. Anyway, I appreciate your time. Thanks. Have a good night. This is Mike again. If you're having trouble with your 3D printer, I'm putting a link in the video description of how you can schedule a 15-minute consult with me. I'm more than happy to sit down with you, see if we can figure out what the problem is, see if we can get your printer rolling. Also, if you would like to support the channel, I've enabled memberships. And so for a small monthly contribution, you can help support my work. Now, ideally, what I'm going to do is use any money, and same for the advertising I get for the channel. I'm going to use that to buy more 3D printers and more equipment and more technology that I could use here on the channel. If you have any questions or comments, please post below, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.